to, doing what we need to do, staying up all night, everything is alright.
Hey guys, what is up? It's Milan and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be filming the part 2 to my roommate horror story time. So if I look a little different, that is because I got my hair cut, so yeah, just do with that what you will. How do we like it? It has to grow out, but I needed a haircut, so I think it looks okay. Anyways, so if you haven't watched my first story time, I'll link it below. Definitely go watch that first before you watch the part 2, because none of this is gonna make any sense to you at all if you don't watch the first part. So basically where I left off on the last story, just to give you like a quick reminder, so basically what had happened is I ended up calling the cops on Pam. The cops came, they were just like, yeah, we can't do anything about it, like get a restraining order or just move out. And I'm like, okay. And then I like packed up my stuff and went and stayed at my boyfriend's house for the night. So basically after that, I just stayed at my boyfriend's for like a while, because honestly, like I did not feel comfortable staying there. First of all, I didn't have a freaking lock on my bedroom door. So for all I know, this psycho freaking Pam could have came in and like tried to stab me in my sleep or something. I don't know, like she's just clearly unhinged and freaking crazy. So I did not want to be anywhere in that apartment after like that whole traumatic night and everything that happened. So like time goes on and I'm staying at my boyfriend's place, and so basically like to rewind a little bit, on the night that this all happened, I called Jessie. Jessie was the lady that we leased the apartment from. So I called her and texted her like after all the shit went down, and it was like 1 a.m. so she obviously didn't respond. And my boyfriend texted her as well, basically like explaining what happened, like, hey, we had to call the cops, da da da. So that next day, I want to say, Jessie finally responds to us and is like, hey, like what is going on? Like, why were the cops called last night? Da 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 da. And we like briefly explained to her what happened. She's like, okay, well, like this isn't okay. Like we need to have a meeting. And the we that there was me, her, and Pam. And I'm like, bro, oh my God, like the last thing I freaking want to do is have a shitty little meeting with Pam and this lady again, because in the last story I already met with them and like had a talk and nothing happened from it, because like, yeah. So anyways, so she's like, okay, this day, this time, let's meet at the apartment and we're all gonna like discuss this and figure it out, because like that's not okay. I'm like, okay, all right. Like the last thing I wanted to do was go and talk with freaking Pam again after she went crazy on me. But like my boyfriend talked me into it, and he's like, no, you have to do this. Like you gotta explain everything to Jessie and like, you know, like lay it all out for her, because she needs to do something about it. Like you're renting from her, and she, like if people are endangering you or like coming into your space and like trying to fight you, like that's not okay, obviously. So she needs to like do something about it. I'm like, yeah, you're right, okay. But I'm like really not wanting to do it. Really, really, really not wanting to. So anyways, basically the day comes and my boyfriend takes me to my apartment, and I'm literally just sitting in the car like shaking. Like I'm so anxious and just so like, I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go in there. Like it's gonna be fucking terrible. Because honestly, like I was just anxious, but also I had like, I don't know, I just like had this terrible feeling, because like the last time I was in the apartment, everything that happened was like semi-traumatic, to be honest. So I'm like, oh my God, like I don't want to do this. But the time came and I had to go inside. So I went inside of the apartment, and So basically, like, since Pam had to break down the door, which she didn't, she's just fucking stupid, but since she had to break down the door, she ended up changing the locks to our apartment. So she had texted me beforehand and was like, I had to change the locks, so your key is under the mat so you can get in. And I was like, okay. So I went and I looked under the mat, and obviously a key wasn't freaking there. And I'm like, wow, okay. So the door was unlocked though, so I was just able to go inside. And I'm like, hey, where is my key? She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's not under the mat. I just looked. And she's like, yes, it is. I'm like, okay. She like goes and looks and she's like, oh, I forgot. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure you did. Like, I'm sure she did that on purpose just to see if I would remember to ask for the key or not, which is like, just explains her so well, honestly. So anyway, she like gives me my key. She's like, here. I'm like, okay. So then Jessie gets there and the little talk begins. Okay, literally, like, this was, like, I hate even thinking about this whole situation again and like remembering it, because it was just so like terrible. And basically, I don't know, like, if you've had an experience like this before, like, you know what it feels like. Basically, like, when you're just being gaslighted and like made to feel like you're the bad person or like you're the one in the wrong, when in reality you know that you're not like the bad person, you didn't do anything wrong, but the people around you are like treating you like you're the issue. It's like one of the worst feelings ever. It's like so manipulative and just like so yeah, bear with me. Anyways, so we start with the talk and Jessie's like, okay, like, Milan, like, can you explain what happened in your words? And I'm like, I'm still so anxious and I'm like bright red because I don't know, I'm just like, I just hate situations like this. Like, I hate conflict and I hate shit like this. So anyway, I just like explained to her, I'm like, yeah, well, I went to bed, I locked the door. Next thing I know, freaking Pam and her gross boyfriend are like freaking banging on my door. And then they start yelling at me and da 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 da, and then she tries to fight me and da da da. And then I like didn't know what to do because you didn't answer your phone when I was calling you, so I had no other like option other than to call the cops. And yeah, that's what happened. And she's like, okay, well, honestly, Milan, this is Jessie. She's like, honestly, Milan, I think you calling the cops was like very serious and you didn't really need to do that. Like, I don't think it was that serious of a situation, so I don't think that you needed to call the cops. Like, I don't know why you did that. And I'm like, girl, are you kidding me? What do you mean you think it was like too much for me to call the cops? Like, they literally tried to fight me. Like, I felt in danger, especially when there's like a freaking man there at my door. She's like, yeah, no, I understand, but like, and then freaking Pam is like, yeah, well, you locked us out on purpose and like you did this to me and it's because you hate me and you just wanted to lock me out and ruin my night and da 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 da. I'm like, girl, what are you even saying? And I just like laid out the facts again. I'm like, okay, like, sis, you didn't have your phone, you didn't have your keys to the house, you didn't tell anyone that you were home, you didn't use your little fucking tiny brain and think, maybe I should go in the backyard and yell at her from there because her room is right there, not bang on the door for an hour or something and just expect me, like, I don't know. Anyway, and so basically, like, we both say our opinions of what happened that night or whatever, and Jessie's just sitting there like, yeah, well, honestly, girls, I just think that you two need to figure it out. You two just need to figure it out because you can't just be fighting with one another, and this has gotten really bad. And like, Milan, again, like, I don't think that you should have called the police. I just think that you two should like learn to cohabitate together and just like, I'm like, what are you saying? I literally felt like I was like losing my mind because I'm like, huh? Like, am I hearing you right? She was like, I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that what she did was like a reasonable response. She's like, well, people get locked out and they might get really mad. Like, I don't know, if I was locked out, I might have been mad and like gone and banged on my roommate's door or something. I'm like, okay, and her trying to fight me and her pushing my door into me and all of that is like acceptable behavior to you, Jessie? Really? Really? Is that true? Really? And she's like, well, you know, I just can't pick sides because I don't know, you could have locked Pam out on purpose and like, I don't really know. I'm like, okay, cool, cool, cool. I know now that you're a bitch and you don't give a shit about us, don't give a shit about my well-being, and clearly just want us to keep paying you money so that you can rent out your room. And yeah, that's basically what you are. You're just a freaking bitch. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Now, I obviously didn't say that because, you know, yeah. But I was just sitting there in disbelief the whole time being like, wow, so you really think that? Okay, so if you were in my situation, you wouldn't have called the cops, you wouldn't have done anything about it, you just would have let them yell at you and try to fight you and push your door in on you? You would have been cool with that, really? Okay, yeah, sure, makes sense, makes perfect sense. And so basically, like, they both just turned on me. Obviously, Pam already is, like, against me, but this bitch, Jessie, who I've literally never met before, just was like, yeah, tough luck, like, sorry, maybe you're the problem, I don't know. And it's like, okay, like, it's one thing not to pick sides just because, like, you don't know me and she's known Pam, but it's, like, another thing to diminish, like, the way that I felt and act like my safety, like, wasn't in danger, because it clearly was. Like, I wouldn't have just called the cops if she would have yelled at me. Like, I'm not a fucking baby. Like, I called the cops for good reason. Like, I feel like any girl or anyone would agree with that. And everyone that I've told this story to is like, wow, that's crazy. Like, she really said that. I'm like, hey, yeah. So after the conversation, Jessie's just like going on to like, you girls just have to figure it out, like, or one of you can move. I'm like, yeah, cool, I'm not moving. Like, I'm not the one in the wrong. I didn't do anything to anyone. Like, I'm not going to move out just because Pam is a freaking psychopath and probably wants me to move out so that she can rule her little house again or whatever. Like, I'm not going to move out because I didn't do anything. Like, I still live here. And Pam's like, honestly, Milan, you aren't welcome here anymore. This is my house and you aren't welcome here. I'm like, bitch, this is not your house. What are you on? I'm like, first of all, Pam, this is not your house. We all pay rent together. We all rent a room from Jessie. And I literally like point over at Jessie, and Jessie's just sitting there like, nothing to say, nothing to say, not a single word to say. Anytime Pam was telling me that I wasn't welcome in the house, or just basically bashing me, telling me how things are gonna be, I'm just like looking at Jessie and she's just like, I'm like, wow, okay, cool, cool. So basically I was just like, all right, I'm done with this conversation because it's gone nowhere, and it's very clear that you don't care about your renter's safety and you don't value like you weren't taking responsibility in any way and just expecting us to figure it out and just be friendly towards each other. Like, bitch, no, we're way past that. Like, what are you on? So I'm just like, okay, I'm over talking about this. This obviously got nowhere, and I literally feel like I'm just like the odd man out at this point because they've practically like joined teams at this point, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, cool, fuck me, okay, yeah. And so that's when that's when fucking Pam does some sly shit, and she's like, oh, Jessie, can I show you something in my room really quick? And I'm like, okay. So I go to my room because I need to grab some things. And I go into my room and I'm like grabbing some more clothes and stuff. And then I walk out, and as I'm walking out, I pass Pam's room. And guess who's sitting in Pam's room? The entire time that we were talking. Her little freaking disgusting, nasty, repulsive little man. Ugh, disgusting. Freaking mafioso. So he's there, and I'm just like, what? What? Okay, all right. So that's when I like actually get pissed. Like this whole time I wasn't pissed. I was just like in disbelief and like upset. But that's when I get pissed because her, Jessie and this dude are just in the room all talking now, and they're all like talking shit about me to her basically. And I'm just like, okay, well, yeah, just so you know, Jessie, if I'm going to continue to give you money for my room, he should not be allowed in this house at all because he made me feel very uncomfortable. He tried to intimidate me in my own house. He does not pay rent. He does not live here. He's not even her boyfriend. And I don't feel safe living here if he's going to be here. I said it just like that, like point blank, period. Like, no, this is not okay. Like, are you fucking kidding me right now? This dude really has the gall to be in the apartment while all this shit is going on, and it's mainly because of him. Like, I was so fucking pissed. And then little Pam is about to go off like, that's my boyfriend. If I want to have my boyfriend here, he can be here. I'm like, first of all, bitch, that's not your boyfriend. That's your little disgusting fuck buddy who you're cheating on with your actual boyfriend. So let's get things very clear, okay? That's not your boyfriend. And she's like, if I want to have my boyfriend here, I should be able to because I pay rent and I live here too. I'm like, okay, cool. I live here too, honey. I pay rent too. So unless I'm moving, he needs to go. And I'm looking directly at Jessie. I'm like, do you understand me? And she's like, I can't tell someone to just not let their boyfriend over. And then Pam chimes in and is like, Milan, then I don't want your boyfriend here. If you're gonna tell me that my boyfriend can be here, I don't feel comfortable with your boyfriend being here. I'm like, bitch, what are you even talking about? My boyfriend's done nothing to you. My boyfriend has literally only been nice to her and tried to be like a middleman between the two of us. He has really done nothing to her, but she obviously just hates him too because like he's with me, obviously. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? First of all, my boyfriend is never here. Like, my boyfriend literally never comes over. We go to his house if we want to hang out. He doesn't just come and hang out at my house. Now, freaking gross-ass mafioso is always there, always coming over, always hanging out, just always there. Like, bro, do you have a home? Maybe go back to your house. So at this point, I am fuming because I'm like, wow, the disrespect in all of this, the fact that they're going to go into her room and start talking shit about me to Jessie, like the two of them, I'm like, wow, okay. And then that's when disgusting little mafioso wants to chime in and say, oh, what did I do to you? What did I do to you? You're scared of me? Because I tried to stab you, right? I tried to kill you. I'm like, literally just looking at Jessie, I'm like, what? Like, this dude really has the fucking audacity to downplay the shit that he did to me, downplay the fact that he barged into my room. He pushed open my door onto me. He tried to intimidate me as I was leaving my own fucking house. Like, oh my God. So I'm literally like so mad that I'm like getting tears in my eyes. So I leave the apartment and I go downstairs because my boyfriend was still waiting outside this whole time. And I am scream crying. I'm like, they're fucking crazy. They're all fucking against me. Fucking Jessie didn't have anything to say. Like, she was on Pam's side the whole time. They didn't have a single thing to say. She invalidated everything I said. She just tried to make it seem like I was the bad one. She told me that I shouldn't have called the cops. She told me da 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 da. And I'm like infuriated because like every single thing I did was just invalidated, and like they just gaslighted the fuck out of me and tried to make me seem like I was the odd man out and like I was the person coming into this house trying to start all of this drama and beef and just like shit. And I'm like, I literally, like, oh my God, I'm just screaming. I'm like, like screaming. And he's like, oh my God, okay, babe, calm down, calm down, calm down. He's like, okay, do you want me to go in there and talk to them? He's like, okay, I'm gonna go. He's like, I'm gonna go talk to Jesse right now. I'm like, okay. And so he like goes upstairs and he walks in, and I am like following behind him, and he's like, he goes into Pam's room because they're still in there talking. Still, like 15 minutes later, they're still there. So he walks in and he goes, hey, Jessie, can I talk to you? And she's like, oh, yeah, okay. And freaking Pam and Little Mafioso didn't have a single word to say, which I thought was fucking hilarious, because when I'm there, they want to be all big and bad. They want to shit on me. They want to try to say all this shit to me. But he comes in and they didn't have a single thing to say. Okay. So anyways, so me, him, and Jesse go out to the living room, and he basically just like lays it all out. So he's like, okay, so I just want to get this whole story correctly, because Milan just explained everything to me that happened here, and I just want to make sure that I am getting the information from you first before we carry on with this however we want to. And she's like, oh, okay. And he's like, so you told her that you didn't think that she should call the police? You thought that that was extra? He didn't say extra, but like, it was like, you thought that that was too much? That's what she said. And she's like, yeah, well, I didn't think that she should have called the police. I think they should just figure it out, like adults. And yeah, I didn't think that she should have done that. And he's like, okay, so let me get this correct. Like, so say if I would have barged into your room at 12 o'clock at night, you wouldn't have felt intimidated and scared for your safety. Like if me and Milan, for instance, just barged into your room and started yelling at you and then tried to fight you and then pushed your door in onto you and then knocked over your side table, and kept yelling at you, you wouldn't feel uncomfortable or intimidated or in danger in any way? And she's like, honestly, not really. Like, I'm just not the type of person to call the cops about little things like that. And I'm just sitting there in disbelief, like staring at this bitch like, is she really serious? Is she really serious right now? And he's like, okay, all right, I don't know what else to say then. He's like, so let me get this right. And he basically was just like saying all these different scenarios, like basically trying to see if she was understanding him correctly. And I'm just like, babe, she gets it. She just doesn't see it the way that we do. She doesn't think it's a big deal. So like, there's no point in even talking to her because apparently she doesn't think it's a big deal at all, and she thinks I'm just overreacting. And he's like, all right, so I just want to make sure that you do know that they trespassed into Milan's room. They barged into her room. Just want to make sure that I heard that correctly. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, okay. And you also know that she did not let them into her room? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, okay. And you also understand that they damaged her property and threw the door back into her as well? She's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, all right, well, that's all I wanted to ask you. And she's like, okay, yeah, hopefully we can figure it out. And then we leave. Afterwards, my boyfriend basically explained to me like why he asked her all of those things, and essentially it was because in a what's the word, like basically my lease that I signed, basically they broke my lease. So, you know, like when you sign a lease, it's not always like said on the lease, like, they will make it a safe environment to live, but it's usually something like that. And so if that is ever broken, then the lease is like void. So basically he was just trying to get her to admit to knowing all of this information, not doing anything about it, and then what we wanted to do with that afterwards would be like okay, because so basically what happened after all of this was it's pretty drawn out and long just because it took like 2 months for all of this to go into effect. But essentially the first thing that we did was we went and put a lock on my bedroom door so that they couldn't fuck with my stuff while I wasn't there. They couldn't do anything to my things. So we went and put a lock on my door, and then after that we sent paperwork from our lawyer to Jessie, basically stating that she had broken the lease, that she had decided to not do anything about the situation that occurred, and that yeah, that the lease was broken, and we'll figure out where we go from there. So this is when things start to look up for me, because my boyfriend told me, look, technically, like legally, I don't have to pay her rent anymore because she broke the lease, and yeah, so you don't have to pay rent anymore. Basically decided to just drain this bitch's pockets until she would give me my deposit back, because she just didn't want to give me my deposit back. So later on we find out that she had actually spent my deposit. She had taken my deposit, which is illegal. She had used my deposit and she didn't have it anymore. So when I was saying, I'm ready to move out whenever you just want to give me my deposit, she wasn't able to because she had spent my deposit, because she's a freaking dumbass. So after that, yeah, we just decided, okay, well, until she gives me the deposit back, we are not going to pay her rent, because again, they're literally breaking laws. Like, this is illegal. It's illegal to take someone's deposit and use it for something else. Like, anytime someone does that, it's illegal and you can literally sue them for it. So yeah, we just basically drained her pockets until she decided that she was gonna give me my deposit back. And it ended up coming out of my roommate's pocket instead of Jessie's, because my roommate just wanted me out so bad that she decided that she herself would give me $1,000 out of her pockets just to get me to move out. So technically, this bitch Jessie did break the law. This bitch Jessie just did a lot of shit wrong. She should not be able to rent to people. Like, there are just so many things that were not right at all. But yeah, basically, to make a long story short, I was given my deposit back, so I said, okay, peace out then. So after like a month or two, I ended up moving out of there. My boyfriend helped me move out, and there were no issues or anything like that. And since then, I have been a free woman, and I am so freaking happy just to be out of that situation. If any of you guys have ever had a terrible, terrible roommate situation, definitely let me know about it. Maybe it'll make me feel less bad about this hell hole that I was in. But I mean, I'm just really glad to be out of that. And I really hope that I will not ever have a terrible roommate situation like that ever again. And the next time that I move, which probably will be by like this year or next, I just hope that I can either get my own place so I don't have to deal with people anymore, because people in LA are scary. Or I don't know, maybe I can like move in with a friend or something like that. So anyways, yeah, that is my story time. That is the part 2 to my terrible freaking roommate. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed, any thoughts or comments that you have. And I'll see you in my next video. Okay guys, bye.